Hi book lovers, welcome back to my channel. I am super excited to do the mid-year book freakout tag 2023 for today's video. I feel like I've been pretty consistent with doing these every year, and it's also nice to see everyone else's answers for these questions. But before I get into sharing all of my favorites of the year, some disappointments, and more, I did want to share the sponsor for today's video. Today's video is brought to you by Megan Quinn and one of her newest releases, Royally in Trouble. This is the second book in the Royal series from Megan Quinn. It is the direct sequel to Royally in Trouble. So if you read and loved that first book and you want more of Keller and Lily, then you definitely need to pick up Royally in Trouble. We have some more shenanigans, Megan Quinn style. We have a lot more banter, but this time the whole story is centered around Keller and Lily's wedding. Lily's grandfather, who is the king, he wants them to stick to all of their traditions, which means staying celibate until the wedding. It's a royal rom-com with a princess heroine who is about to get married. So if you're interested in a hilarious new twist on the royal romance trope, be sure to check out Megan Quinn's Royal series. I'll leave a link down below for you to check it out. Book 1 is Royally Not Ready and book 2 is Royally in Trouble. Alright, so on to my 12 questions in this mid-year book freakout tag. The first question is, what's the best book you've read so far in 2023? Every time I get this question, every time I answer it, I can never settle on just one book. Like, that is impossible for me. I mean, some years I might have like one standout favorite, but this year it is super hard for me to choose. So I've narrowed it down to 3 favorites. 2 of them are newer releases released in 2023, and one of them is an older book. I'll start off with the older book, which I made a whole vlog about because I was so obsessed with it, and it is the Mindf series by St. Abbey. Honestly, I'm still kind of kicking myself for not reading this sooner because it really blew my mind. It absolutely lived up to all the hype that it has, that it deserves. It's a 5-book series, and this is the omnibus of all 5 books. All of them are pretty short though, around like 200 pages. They all follow the same couple, and it's dark and intense and so good, so gripping. It's pretty much a dark romance about a serial killer heroine and an FBI cop hero. 2 complete opposites, 2 people who probably never should have fallen in love, but they did. The heroine is a serial killer who wants revenge against all the men who ruined her life. You can imagine the reasons why she wants revenge against him. So it gets dark, it gets graphic, but it's just so satisfying because these bad guys are getting what they deserve. The hero is the FBI agent who has been assigned to try to track down and find the serial killer. He has no idea that the woman that he has just met and has started falling for is that serial killer. So it gets wild. There's so much action going on. It literally just never stops. The author was such a fantastic storyteller. Like, any book that she wrote under all of her pen names, they all had you hooked. She created a story in the Mindf series that I had never wanted to let go of. I'm still thinking about it even months later after having read it. It just blew me away. And then for my other 2 favorites, the ones that did release this year, I have Liars Like Us by J.T. Geisinger. This book is a dark rom-com, if that makes sense. Like, it has some dark elements. I wouldn't say it's, you know, too dark or anything, but we do have an unhinged hero, which is the reason why I love this so much. And it's such a funny book. Like, if you've ever read any sort of mafia romance from J.T. Geisinger, then you know how funny her books can get, how funny her characters can be. She writes banter so well. She writes feisty heroines incredibly. So the dynamics between the main characters here was just hilarious and unique and so good. Like I said, we do have an unhinged hero who is very over the top, very alpha and possessive and obsessive to the next level. He offers the heroine $20 million to marry him. So it's a billionaire marriage of convenience romance. It's hot and smutty, and it also had me laughing out loud multiple times just because of how ridiculous these characters can be. I've read a lot of J.T. Geisinger books, but this one is easily my new favorite from her. And then my 3rd favorite book of 2023 is In the Lives of Puppets by T.J. Klune. First off, look how stunning these sprayed edges are on this edition. I love it so much. And second, I am a T.J. Klune fangirl. Every book that I've read from him, I've pretty much loved. I have yet to be disappointed by a book of his, and this one, I mean, it was pretty obvious that I was gonna love it. This one is somewhat along the lines of House of the Cerulean Sea and Under the Whispering Door, where it's like a standalone fantasy-ish romance. There's a sci-fi magical element to it, and this one is about robots. We have sentient robots in this world. They have taken over the world, basically. The hero is the last human alive, and he was raised by a robot father. It is so heartwarming, so touching, like every other TJ Klune book. He is the master at writing a found family. He wrote a whole found family full of robots here, and we do have a queer romance here between the human hero and this new robot that shows up. He does cause a little bit of trouble though. He gets the hero's father taken away, so everyone gets together to save the hero's father. It's such a beautiful read. I actually read it through the audiobook and I highly recommend it, just because the narrator does such a fantastic job with all the different robots, all the different characters. It was just so perfect. Moving on to question 2, which is, what is the best sequel you've read so far in 2023? So for me, I had a hard time finding one that was like a direct sequel following the same couple. So I am gonna have to go with King of Pride by Anna Huang. It's book 2 in the Kings of Sin series. It's not a direct sequel to book 1 to King of Wrath, but it's still a sequel. It's about a different couple. It is Kai and Isabella's romance, who I had such high expectations for, and I love them. I knew I would love them. I knew I would fall in love with Kai. I mean, I was already in love with him in book 1 anyway, but he definitely exceeded my expectations. I do love a couple where one of them is the more stoic one, and they slowly soften and open up through the love of the other character, and this is exactly how Kai and Isabella's romance went. Kai is a little rigid, he is on the more quiet side, but when it comes to Isabella, he just lights up on fire. Also, I do love a man who not only wants to whisk me away to France on a whim, but also would give me a typewriter because I'm a writer. And by me, I tragically mean Isabella, because Kai is unfortunately not real. I wish he was though, this gorgeous, rich Asian man in glasses. Yes, please. So King of Pride was a fantastic sequel, and I am pretty sure I'm also gonna love the next sequel, which is King of Greed. That one is gonna be Marriage in Trouble, and I can already taste the grovel in that one, so Anna Huang is just killing it with all the sequels this year. Question 3 is, what's a new release you haven't read yet but want to? Also cheating a little bit here because I do have 2 of them. I mean, my TBR is endless, but here are 2 books on it. This first one is Meet Your Match by Kandi Steiner, which is a hockey romance. I think it's her very first hockey romance. Like, her last series was all about football, so now this one is all about hockey, which I am not going to complain about. It's the first book in the Kings of the Ice series. We have a playboy hockey player, and the heroine has just been assigned to him for 1 month. She has to be around him 24/7 for a whole 30 days. They do hate each other though, so it's gonna be enemies to lovers, roommates, forced proximity, all the good stuff. I'm just so glad that we're getting more sports romances from Kandi Steiner. Her football romances were so great, so I have a feeling that I'll love this one too. Another new release that I have to get to is Hello Stranger by Catherine Center. This one I'm probably gonna be reading very soon. I'm so excited because every Catherine Center book that I've read, I've loved. I've given 5 stars. She's such an incredible author and writer. I mean, I know she's more on the women's fiction side, not so much romance, but I still love them. This one though has such a unique premise. I love the sound of it. The heroine, she gets into this accident where she ends up getting face blindness, so she's never able to recognize any faces that she sees, which is a problem not just for her work because she's a portrait artist, but also for her love life because she can't seem to remember the guy's face that she's falling for. I mean, isn't that such a unique setup? I don't think I've ever read about face blindness in a book before, at least one that wasn't a textbook. So I'm excited and very much looking forward to this one. The next question that I have is, what is your most anticipated release for the second half of 2023? Alright, so I already went over King of Greed by Anna Huang. This one, like I said, it is Marriage in Trouble and grovel galore ahead. At least I'm hoping there will be, but knowing Anna and how much she herself loves grovel, we can expect some good amount of it. King of Greed is coming out in October later this year, and I need it so badly. This is Alessandra and Dominic's romance. We've known them since the beginning of the series. We've known them as the couple who is married but having some marriage troubles. We have the greed sin here. So the hero, he's climbing up his way to getting more power, more money, and leaving his wife behind. She's done with him now, but he does want her back. So I cannot wait to see how he'll make it up to his wife, because he definitely has a lot of making up to do. But another anticipated read that I have is Things We Left Behind by Lucy Score. We are so close to finally getting Lucian and Sloane's romance. This one comes out in September. This is another sort of couple that has been teased since the beginning of the series. We have seen a lot of them throughout the books, and we've seen how much Lucian and Sloane hate each other but want each other. Lucian is definitely going to be the darkest hero out of all three guys, all three best friends. I know I'm going to fall so hard for him, but also I know my heart is gonna break for him. Sloane is a small town librarian who has known Lucian since they were younger. They have a lot of history, a lot of mysterious history that we don't know about yet, but I cannot wait to finally read more about it, more about them. Their chemistry in the first two books sizzled like crazy, so I'm also hoping that this one is gonna be the hottest of the series. We have childhood friends, childhood sweethearts, question mark. We have enemies to lovers, a rich hero, small town librarian. It's gonna be so good. For my next question, question 5 is, what is my biggest disappointment? Unfortunately, the biggest disappointment that I had for 2023 was a book that I really thought I was gonna give 5 stars to. I am so sad that I did not love Happy Place by Emily Henry. This book disappointed the heck out of me. I mean, I didn't hate it. I still gave it like 3 stars, but when I was expecting to give it 5, 3 stars is quite the bump down. It was just not the Emily Henry book that I was expecting it to be. It had all my favorite tropes. There's second chance romance, fake dating, roommates, but none of it just worked as well as I thought it would. The main characters were so boring, so frustrating. I honestly was not invested in their second chance at all. The switching between past and present chapters was also not my favorite here. I loved it in People We Meet on Vacation, but this one was a bit of a fail. I just was not rooting that much for the main characters, which was so sad. I'm super curious though, if you've read Emily Henry, if you've read Happy Place, let me know what you thought of it. Did you love it, or were you also disappointed? Because it just didn't live up to my expectations. Question 6 is, what was my biggest surprise? This one has gotta be the freaking dinosaur romance that I read and fell in love with. It's got quite the title. It's called Sexual Tyrannosaurus by Elizabeth and Cassandra Gannon. So it's 2 romances in one book. Each of them is written by one of the sisters. The only one that I read though was the one by Cassandra Gannon, who I love and adore. Her book was called Taming the Tyrant Lizard, which, I mean, pretty much says it all. It's such a funny fantasy monster romance. I mean, we have a king dinosaur hero, an Amazonian heroine. She pretends to be a babysitter in order to become the hero's kid's nanny. It's super wild, so over the top, pretty much Cassandra Gannon's MO. 2023 was definitely not the year that I expected to fall in love with a T-Rex hero, but here we are. It's honestly such a great time if you're looking for something ridiculous. For question 7, who is my favorite new author? It could be a debut author or a new to me author. For me, I probably have to go with Katarina Mara, just because I've read so many of her books this year. The first book that I read from her was literally the first book that I read in 2023. I read Until You January 1st and loved it. It's a brother's best friend romance, it's a roommates to lovers romance, and the main characters are online hackers. So I love this one. It's probably still my favorite of her books so far. It's book 1 in the Off Limits series. All the books in the series are sort of forbidden or taboo. I read 2 other books in the series and really adored them. I read a couple other one-offs, and the rest of her books are on my TBR. She's just a very solid, entertaining read for me. She has all these fun classic tropes. I mean, they're not anything that unique, but I have a great time while I'm reading them. The only complaint that I have though is that all of her covers are flower covers, and I just cannot differentiate between any of them. I hate the flower cover trend, but what's new. Moving on to question 8, which is who is my newest fictional crush? My newest one has got to be Glitch from Glitch by Brianna Michaels. I fell in love with this novella and with this man. Oh my god. He's this giant tattooed gamer who runs an electronics store. His voice is supposed to be very deep, and he also narrates romance audiobooks as a side hustle. So he's got a lot of great things going on for him, but I loved him and his love for the heroine. They're gaming buddies, but they've never met. He has just fallen in love with her through her voice. He's built fantasies around her, they both have, but when they finally do meet, it is absolutely mind-blowing. He is so good at all the dirty talk. He calls her kitty. It was such a hot and smutty read, and I just fell so hard for Glitch. He was perfection, and he's definitely my newest favorite crush. For my newest favorite character, I probably have to go with the robots in the Lives of Puppets by TJ Klune. Nurse Ratched and Rambo were hilarious. Oh my gosh, they were so funny. They just stole the show so many times while I was reading this one. Nurse Ratched is this nurse robot that's supposed to be, you know, acting like a nurse, helping people out with their medical problems, but she's kind of a murderous robot. She's very eager when it comes to killing their enemies, and she has to actively activate her empathetic side, her empathetic mode, in order to help people, because otherwise she wants to slice things up, slice things open, to inspect them like a mad scientist. I also did love Rambo though. He's one of the other side robot characters. He is a Roomba who is so cute and so adorable. He's the sunshine to Nurse Ratched's grump. He lives to clean. I mean, that is literally his job and function, but he's just so unbelievably sweet and wholesome. They were definitely two of the many reasons why I love this book so much. Question 10 is a book that made me cry, and I mean, I gotta go again with In the Lives of Puppets. This book got me fucked up, okay? It had me falling in love with robots, it had me crying over robots. I mean, I wasn't sobbing or anything, but I definitely teared up towards the end when it came to the hero's father. It was both heartbreaking and heartwarming. It was just all the emotions. Such a beautiful ending that my heart could not take it, so this one had me tearing up. I don't remember any other book this year that I read that also had me tearing up, just because I don't cry that much when it comes to reading, but TJ Klune will do it to me. For the next question, question 11, what is a book that made me happy? I will go with My Dark Romeo by Parker S. Huntington and LJ Shen. This book had me laughing so much. It was so entertaining, so very over the top. It's a forced arranged marriage between two very wealthy people. The hero forces the heroine to marry him in order to get revenge against his biggest rival, just because his rival is engaged to the heroine. No, he's not though, because she ended up marrying the hero, much to her reluctance. It's very much enemies to lovers. We have some crazy tension between this new husband and wife. She makes it her new job to make his life miserable, like racking up $1 million charge on his credit card, driving his fancy cars and scratching them up a little. So she does make his life miserable, but he kind of loves it. I highly recommend this one if you're in the mood for something over the top and fun. The second and last question is, what is the most beautiful book that you've bought or received in 2023? For me, I have to go with the Off-Campus series by Elle Kennedy, the special editions from the Bookish box that were so delayed, but honestly, after having, you know, received them and gloried in them, they were worth the wait. I already showed these books in one of my book hauls, but look how absolutely stunning these editions are. I am obsessed. This is the deal, book 1, with all the blue and the foiling. Here's the spine and of course sprayed edges. Book 2 is The Mistake. This one is my favorite book in the series, and it is red, and here is Hannah and Logan. Book 3 with this spicy cover of Allie and Dean. This is the score, and it is so perfect. And the final book is The Goal with all this orange, and it's got the surprise pregnancy couple here. So these books are perfect. I am in love with them, and also the end papers are so well done here. They're all unique for each book. It's got little tidbits on each couple, but let me show you guys the naked hardcovers too. They are also just as stunning. They've got the guys' jerseys on the covers here. They're so nice. I love all the foiling here. It's so very hockey. Oh, I love them. And then the final question in this mid-year book freakout tag is, what books do you need to read by the end of the year? For me, I have quite a few fantasy books that I need to get to. First off, I do really need to get started on reading Carissa Broadbent. I've heard all the good things for her fantasy books, and I do really want to start off with The Serpent and the Wings of Night. That one is book 1 in her Crowns of Nyaxia series, and it's got such a beautiful cover, and it also just got picked up by a publisher, so I'm sure it'll get even bigger than it already is. I honestly don't even know what it's about though. I've only heard great things from my friends. It looks like it's a fantasy romance with vampires. There's some legendary tournament, which sounds very exciting. So I'm really hoping I love this one. And then the other fantasy romance that I need to read is one from Bree. This one is The Crown of Oaths and Curses. It's the first book in her new fantasy romance series. It's MF. We've got enemies to lovers, fated mates, there's fae, witches, magic, all that good stuff. I did read the 2 prequel novellas and already am really invested in this world, in this romance. I did hear that this first book was pretty slow burn though, but I mean, as long as I know that going in, I'm okay with it. So I do have some fantasy romances to get to later this year. I mean, the new Rebecca Yarros is also coming out later this year. Iron Flame, which is the sequel to Fourth Wing, that one is also gonna be on my TBR, and I will definitely be reading it before the end of the year. Boo. Hey, Boo, stop it. No. Shh. No. No, Boo. Stop it. No, baby. And that's it for my mid-year book freakout tag for 2023. If you want to share your favorite reads of the year, your disappointments, or books on your TBR for the rest of 2023, leave a comment down below. And as always, links to all the books that I mentioned will be in my description box. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all next time. Bye!